The Suicide Squad. The sequel. Let's talk about this movie. Yo, what the heck is going on, y'all? It's you know who. Welcome back to another movie review, guys. We got a movie to rap about today, okay? We got a movie to talk about. The Suicide Squad, the ever so anticipated sequel to arguably one of the best supervillain teams in the DC Comics. It finally debuted, fellas. Let's talk about this, okay? Okay, first off, let me make it very clear. This movie was not directed by the same guy who did the first film. People apparently didn't know that. This movie was not directed by Mr. David Ayer. This one was taken over by Mr. James Gunn, the crazy man himself. He directed it, he wrote it, and everything. And obviously, you guys will know his name behind titles like Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Infinity War, and also, yeah, Avengers Endgame. Actually, a few characters from those movies appear in this film. Mr. Michael Rooker shows up at the beginning as Savant, and you'll recognize him as Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy, and Taika Waititi appears as Ratcatcher's father. You'll know him as the lovable Korg from Thor Ragnarok in the Avengers movie. Now, Gunn's other titles include psycho thrillers like Dawn of the Dead, and of course, Brightburn, another movie that deals in grotesque, brutal murders. So yeah, with this dude behind the wheel, we kind of knew that this was going to be like a super over-the-top PG-13 DC movie. Like, most of Idris Elba's script in this movie is just swearing. But that was the idea. Gunn said that he wanted this to be the stupidest movie in the DC universe because he would be bringing in the dumbest characters in the DC Comics lore and giving them a chance to shine in the spotlight, to become heroes, like the original ones did, which is why the remaining heroes from the first movie get off in this one, leaving Harley as the last hero alive character. Gunn said that he wanted his team to differ from the original lineup, in that they weren't all made up of powerhouses who could inevitably take on members of the Justice League, but really just a squad of idiots who really couldn't fight their way out of a prison riot. Actually, Henry Cavill's Superman was supposed to be in this movie. Apparently, an original script had him show up to fight the squad in the final battle after he tries stopping Starro. One of the mind control squid thingies lands on his head and makes him see red. Yeah, Gunn apparently threw that idea in the trash because the squad already fought like half the league in the first movie. Actually, Batman alone got like 8 scenes to himself. Of course he did, he's Batman. But yeah, because of Gunn's no superheroes allowed rule, he opted out on bringing in Superman or the Justice League to pave the way for these new guys to become superheroes in their own right, just like the original. Bloodshot was not intended to replace Deadshot. He was Gunn's pick as the grounded, morally driven, mostly human character on this team who would eventually lead this squad of Earth's mightiest dysfunction into a team that we would maybe want to see take on the Justice League one day. Starro the Conqueror Conqueror was the Justice League's very first villain in the Brave and the Bold comics, which is why Gunn chose this guy for the squad to showcase the heroics against. Not because he's ridiculous looking, but because he's a Justice League level threat. That being said, the concept for this movie wasn't bad. I will give it that. It was pretty good. I did enjoy the idea of having, like, the dumbest low-tier characters you can think of showing up and becoming heroes by fighting a Justice League level threat, but I would have appreciated some better character choices. Like, obviously, TDK and Weasel suck, but there was one character in particular who went greatly underutilized: Mongal. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mongal is the daughter of Mongol, the most dangerous warlord in the DC universe, and a guy who takes jaw-breaking punches from Superman and pretty much deals back that damage. So yeah, you can imagine my disappointment when she got killed off immediately. But of course, she is a powerhouse villain after all, and again, that goes against what Gunn wants for this movie. No one who is strong enough to take out the Justice League or to have their own solo movies is allowed to live, even though one of these characters does get her own spin-off solo movie. But that's just because Harley's awesome to watch in these movies. Like, I love in the final battle when they're planning and she's just like, I'm walking back and forth. I love it. Even Polka Dot Man, a character as obscure as this guy in the comics, somehow made it to my list of top favorite supervillains after his performance in this movie, and in no small part to David Demolshin. This dude sold me, and of course he gets killed as well. Actually, everyone I like in this movie ends up getting destroyed by the end of the film, except for Ratcatcher. She doesn't die, which is awesome because she's a definite favorite. Her story was the best out of all of these. Now, story-wise, this movie was all over the place, which of course it was supposed to be. I did enjoy a lot of the elements of it though, like the inclusion of the Thinker. I really enjoyed that. He's a favorite of mine. His death was really grotesque, unlike the Peacemaker, who I wish was grotesque, even though he's not really dead according to the post-credit scene, douchebag. Harley's entire escape sequence was hands down the best sequence in any DC movie ever, and Mr. Nom Nom, King Shark, was just freaking adorable the entire movie. I did appreciate the Hulk smash moment in the final battle.
Now Monster is Nom Nom!
Monster Nom Nom?
Yes!
And Hulk. Smash.
Now, obviously, this movie had a lot of pros and a lot of cons. Probably more of one thing than the other. But I don't think it's fair to go around and call it the worst movie ever made. Like, obviously, it was intended to be dumb. Like James Gunn said, this movie was supposed to be different than any DC movie ever. So, like, if you guys were going into this expecting to see, like, a Justice League kind of movie, or any kind of, like, team-up movie, really, like, any, like, Avengers kind of movie, you were going to the wrong place, because Gunn specifically said he was not making a movie that was like a blockbuster kind of movie. He was intentionally making a dumb movie with the stupidest characters in the DC comics to make them into good guys. Now, granted, the first movie did use characters that weren't very stupid, per se. These were characters who were actually good in the comics, like Deadshot and Killer Croc and Captain Boomerang. These are characters that, like, Batman fought every once in a while, so obviously they weren't stupid characters. But Gunn wanted to go a different route for the sequel and use actual idiotic characters that you wouldn't ever want to see in live action, like the Detachable Kid, like Javelin Man, a character that I never even heard of in the comics. Or is it just Javelin? No, I think it's just Javelin. But the idea was for him to get these stupid characters and make them into those characters from the first movie. Instead of just taking characters who are already awesome and making them into superheroes. So, with that in mind, I don't think it's fair to go around and call this movie the worst movie ever made, especially when we expected it to be dumb. I consider this a masterpiece for what he was going for. And that may just be my opinion, which is fine. But for what he was going for, I consider this really well done. Now, I'm assuming a third movie is coming because obviously the post-credit scene set up that Peacemaker's coming back because he's still alive. So if there's a third one that's going to be made, I would like to have these characters come back unlike the first movie where they didn't bring most of the original characters back except Boomerang, I would like to see these characters return in the threequel and maybe some newer characters to follow. Maybe some of the characters from the first movie, I'd like to see them show up as well. But I would definitely like to see these characters utilized more, especially like Ratcatcher, now that she's kind of coming into superheroing. I would like to see these characters utilized more in the third film, but that's just my opinion. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments if you want to see these guys come back in the third film. Let me know what you thought of this film yourselves, and let me know if you're even going to watch the third film. Also, let me know if you want to see me do more videos talking about this movie. I know there was a lot of stuff about the movie that I didn't discuss in this video. So if you guys want to see me break down the movie and other parts in different videos, make sure you let me know. I'm also going to do an Easter egg video on this and break down all of the cameos, comic book references and stuff that was in this movie. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be coming real soon. But as always, guys, my name is Isaiah Chambers. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay freaking awesome. And I will see you all again in the next video. Bye!